Welcome to Sky High Coaching Conversations. I'm Janelle Ryan, global personal coach and author of Become Extraordinary, joining you from the coastline of Australia. This podcast is raw and unedited, just like life. I work with high-performing professionals, entrepreneurs, and elite athletes who are ready to expand their minds into new ways of thinking, create what once felt impossible, and lead themselves and others with confidence. If you're a self-led human who loves growth, truth, intuition, and a lot of laughs, you're in the right place. I'm so happy you're here. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome. I'm Janelle Ryan. Let's dive in. There was an article in the news this week that caught my attention. Maybe you saw it. A woman had gone for a swim at the beach in a suburb of Sydney here in Australia, and when she returned to collect her things that were on the shore, she found a man wiping his feet on her towel. What the? And apparently when he saw her, he said, "Oh, sorry, I just borrowed your towel to dry my feet. Thanks." Ooh. The article went on to say that Holly posted about the experience on social media and explained in the comments that she'd been too rattled to confront the man in the moment, that it was a horrible way to start the day. Yes, it was. And that she'd since binned the towel. Yes, of course she has. Now, besides this being all kinds of wrong, the piece I'm most interested in here is the word she used, because it's perfect. Rattled. Not shy, not weak, not lacking confidence, not scared, rattled. The word even implies movement, doesn't it? A jolt. It tells the truth without making Holly wrong, because it captures that very particular state where something unexpected happens and your body reacts. It's been jolted after all, before your words arrive. In other words, your nervous system reacts first, your mind catches up later. And once the moment's passed, you replay it with absolute clarity and think, why didn't I say anything? You know what I'm talking about? I have been there myself, my friend, and I bet you have too. And there's another detail here worth noticing because it really exposes what's going on. The man didn't have a problem speaking. He didn't hesitate. He didn't grow quiet. He didn't freeze. He didn't exit stage left. He produced words immediately. It was Holly who was rendered speechless. And this is so common, especially for women who have been trained over generations by society and often family on how to behave. So let's talk about what isn't happening here and why this can happen to intelligent, capable women who absolutely know how to communicate. Because this isn't just about a stranger on a beach. This same pattern shows up everywhere. In a meeting when someone challenges you, in a difference of opinion with a client, in a relationship, a friendship or an intimate relationship where you say something and it falls really flat. You know, when you step on the landmine that you didn't even know that was there. Yeah, me too. Or in a family moment when you feel blamed or dismissed. The setting changes, but the internal jolt is the same. Rattled is rattled, whether it happens in a boardroom or on a towel. And this isn't about intelligence. It's not about confidence. It's not about being articulate enough. In fact, the women who experience this the most are often highly articulate. They're perceptive. They read people well. They can track nuance. They can feel the mood in the room before anyone says a word. And that sensitivity, my friend, is strength. But in the split second when something is surprising, confronting, or socially loaded, that same sensitivity can flip from influence into self-protection. One moment, you're reading the room to communicate well. The next moment, you're reading the room to stay safe inside it. And that shift is subtle. You're no longer thinking, how do I want to say this so it lands? How do I want to say this so that it's clear and concise and everyone wants to follow me into my vision? You're thinking, how do I say something without making this worse? How do I keep this smooth? How do I avoid a reaction? How do I stop this turning into a scene? How do I keep myself liked or at least unpunished? How do I not get into trouble? Oh, how can I not be too much? How can I keep the peace? Or you've gone completely blank. This is why rattled is such a good word, because it names the internal jolt, the scramble, the split second where your nervous system reaches for a strategy fast. And I tend to see 3 common strategies. Listen along, notice if anything comes up for you. The first is silence. Sometimes that's a conscious choice. You decide to wait. You decide to pick your moment. You decide to come back to it when you're feeling steadier or when the timing is better. But often it's quicker than choice, isn't it? It's that weird little blank where you know you have something to say, yet your mouth doesn't cooperate. You hesitate. You go quiet. Your system buys time by doing nothing. Now, from the outside, it can look like composure, like you're being really measured. But inside, it feels like that pause is happening to you, doesn't it? And then you leave the conversation and suddenly you're eloquent again in the car on the way home, in the shower that evening, or at 2 a.m. in the morning when you wake up thinking about all the things you could have said. The second strategy is editing. You do speak, but you start adjusting yourself in real time. You soften the edges. You add unnecessary context. You qualify. You cushion the truth before it's even been challenged. You try to make it palatable. You try to make it safe. And this is where people pleasing can hide in plain sight, because it doesn't always look like weakness. Sometimes it looks like being reasonable. Sometimes it looks like being professional. Sometimes it looks like being nice. But afterwards, you feel flat. You don't feel like yourself, because the clean line, the words you actually wanted to say, never made it out of your mouth. And the third strategy is force. You feel the heat rise and you come in harder than you intended. You sharpen, you armor up, maybe you even stick your sword out too. You push, you demand, you might even raise your voice. And sometimes, yes, this works in the sense that it ends the moment right there. People do back off. The exchange stops. The boundary gets enforced. But again, it doesn't feel like you afterwards. Because even if you won, it wasn't the kind of power you actually want. It wasn't influence. It was control, maybe even manipulation. It was you trying to make the moment safe by taking it over. Silence, editing, force. 3 different strategies, 1 common theme. When we get rattled, we can lose access to our natural steadiness and we default to whatever has helped us survive social heat in the past. This is why it can happen even when you've done all the mindset work. You can understand your patterns. You can have insights. You may even be having them right now. You can know what you want to say. Yet in the moment, when the temperature shifts, your nervous system does what it has been taught over years, over decades, and then practiced, which is the good news, because it means it can be retrained. If it was trained, it can be retrained. So let's talk about what is actually required to change this. We don't want to become tougher. We don't want to become someone who always has the perfect comeback instantly, because we never will. Yes, we see it on TV and in movies, but guess what? They have a script and they've practiced that scene many times. The goal, the vision, the desire is to become someone who can return to herself quickly enough to respond from truth rather than reflex. And here's the nuance that matters, because it's easy to oversimplify this. Keeping your attention outward is not a problem. Attention out is part of your influence. It's how you read the room. It's how you sense whether your message is being received. It's how you adjust your tone, your pace, your body language, your timing. When I'm coaching someone, when they are sitting in front of me, my attention is out 100%. My attention is so far out, I almost cease to exist, if that doesn't sound too weird. That is skill. The problem is when attention out stops being calibration and starts being monitoring, and you can feel when this happens. It's no longer, how do I communicate this clearly so that everybody follows me into my vision? It becomes, how do I stop this getting uncomfortable? Here's the clean question. Am I adjusting to be clearer, or am I adjusting to be liked? To be a good girl, to not be a problem, to not get into trouble, to not be too much. That's the one question that can bring you back to yourself in the moment, because it reveals what's driving your choices. Am I adjusting to be clearer, or am I adjusting to be liked? And yes, it takes practice to be able to do this, real practice. Now let's bring this back to the beach for a moment, because it's such a clean illustration of surprise. Holly didn't have time to prepare. Holly did not get to warm up. She walked straight into a boundary violation, and her system went into that rattled state where words can vanish. Later on, she could name it. In fact, she actually can name the emotion that was in her body. She can name what happened. She was rattled. She wrote it down. And I'm sure later on she had those thoughts going around and round in her head around, oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. Why didn't I say this? Why didn't I say anything? Now, if you're listening to this and thinking, yes, that's me, Janelle, this is the story of my life, I always find my words afterwards, I want you to know there's nothing wrong with you. This isn't a character flaw. It's a pattern, a learned response, a nervous system strategy, and it can be shifted. But it rarely shifts through insight alone. You might be having insights right now, right? Because insight is cool and calm. The moment when we're rattled is hot. What changes everything is practice, real-time practice, under a little bit of pressure and ideally with support. Now, if this is landing and you're thinking, yep, that's me, I invite you to come and join us for Softly Unshakable. Feel that in your body. Softly unshakable, being softly unshakable. It's absolutely free, and it's a 90-minute Zoom immersion where we'll dive in together. Think of it as an introduction to this work, a chance for you to feel the pattern yourself, name it, and then you're going to leave with 1 or 2 tools you can use straight away. You can go out and start using them in your life. And if you already know you're ready to build this into something you can rely on every day, the Soft Strength Salon is where we actually come together for 6 months and create real change. Not insight, not theory. We practice until your voice is there when you need it, no matter what the situation is. So you can create more influence, more impact, and bring whatever you want to create for yourself and your family into life. Because we can't create our desires without being able to influence. So we'll pop the links in the show notes. Until next time, keep expanding, creating, and leading. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you for being here for another Sky High Coaching conversation. If today expanded something in you, trust it and allow it to lead you to your next step. Take what landed, leave what didn't, and keep creating the life and vocation that feels unmistakably yours. Until next time, keep expanding, keep creating, and keep leading with clarity, courage, and a little magic.